Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder, returning after a week's hiatus due to a personal issue on one of our ends.
Yes, but if you are returning, welcome back. If you're new, what we do is we critique stuff. And for the last couple of months now, we've been journeying into the world of Tubi, picking out some hidden gems here and there, along with some
Couple stinkers.
couple of stinkers. Yeah. Some B movies that some of them are good, some of them are like okay. But starting us off this week, although before we get into it, though, we haven't watched these movies. We watched these movies a couple of weeks ago, so
Yeah.
hopefully our memories aren't too horrible. But to get us started off, we're reviewing Robot Jox.
Robot Jox. This is probably the closest we're ever going to get to a BattleTech / Mech Warrior movie.
Yes.
So this is a delightful product of the 1980s when you had BattleTech on the board as a series of board games and novels. You had Robotech on Saturday mornings, and boy, somebody really decided to go all out with as much as they could with the B movie budget.
Well, those someones were the producer Charlie Band and director Stuart Gordon. And for those of you who are wondering, Charlie Band, kind of one of the kings of B movie schlock. He basically invented direct to video, and he's most well known for the Puppet Master franchise.
So he's also kind of through a few levels of abstraction responsible for Netflix.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then the director and writer Stuart Gordon, he did directed Reanimator, and he also did other like Lovecraft adaptations like From Beyond and Dagon. And I forgot to mention this before the show when we were talking. I believe he was the original writer, and he was supposed to direct Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Huh.
Yeah. Because I think he came up with the concept for it originally.
So that kind of imagination, I can see where this would appeal to him.
Oh yeah. So Robot Jox takes place in the future world, like post World War III, where it's basically the U.S. and the Soviet Union, but they're not called. It's not called the. I think it is the U.S. is still the U.S. if I remember right.
That I don't recall. I know that the other country is the Confederation, which is kind of funny for reasons we'll get into.
Yeah. And so following World War III, they decided that there wasn't going to be any more open wars between nations, and they weren't going to. And so any like land disputes or anything were going to be resolved with grudge matches with two giant mech robots.
Truly a more enlightened age.
Yes, indeed. And of course, the pilots of the Robot Jox are, like little mini celebrities, or not mini celebrities. They are celebrities. And our main character, his name is Achilles. He's played by Gary Graham, who I remember from Star Trek Enterprise. He played Ambassador Saval, who's the Vulcan ambassador, who was always butting heads with Scott Bakula's Captain Archer. And he's like kind of like he's the great robot jock now for I'll just say the United States. And he has to fight in this one match against Alexander, who is this, he's kind of like Dolph Lundgren in Haraki 4, only with a much bigger mouth. Yeah.
If he, I don't think he actually said the words "I must break you," but he definitely meant it in every scene.
Oh yes, yeah. um, and of course another character in there. What's interesting is you got a lot of characters named after with Greek names. Like there's another basically like the love interest, Achilles' love interest. Her name is Athena, and it's funny. You got these Greek names, and then you got the one pilot, the great pilot who's basically now a coach, and his name's Tex.
Tex Conway.
Tex Conway. He wears a black cowboy hat.
Which is actually kind of symbolic now that I think about it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so the movie basically, so first off, of course, with the special effects budget this thing would have, that you are not going to have constant wall-to-wall mecha action. Like those are always the most expensive scenes to shoot, even in like modern productions like Ultraman or whatever.
Right.
So you have a lot of on-the-ground intrigue. What's interesting about this one is I appreciate that it doesn't feel the need to ironically comment on its premise.
Yeah.
Like these are characters who live in this world, and it's just like, yeah, of course, battles like for who owns Alaska are settled by giant robot duels. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
There are a lot of parallels in this to BattleTech, which I guess I'll just go ahead and unpin that right now.
Yeah.
So first off, BattleTech has a faction who is like a mix of Soviet Russia and China called the Capellan Confederation. And what is the enemy nation called this one? The Confederation.
Yeah.
And what do you know? They're basically communist stand-ins. You've got you have some real parallels to in BattleTech. They have this world called Solaris 7, which is like a gladiator world. And so like a lot of like having this third party commission manage the fights, having audiences for the fights, having accidents when security breaks down and safety measures break down. That's like a very BattleTech type thing to happen.
Yeah.
I would say that these robots are slightly goofier than BattleTech in terms of like what they can accomplish. Like I cannot tell you how startled I was when in the last act, the characters in these like what must be like 60-foot machines suddenly just turn on their rockets and go to fight in space for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Like that's Mazinger anime type stuff right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
For what was like by the standards of the premise, like a fairly grounded story.
Yeah.
Other BattleTech similarities, Athena, the love interest, she's part of this genetically altered race of supermen who are designed to like be the best robot jocks possible. Robot jocks, of course, being the term for the mech warriors.
Yeah.
But and the creator of her kind is always bugging good mech warriors for samples, or robot jocks for samples, which is also a little bit BattleTech.
Yeah.
Even the way that these 80s, what do you call it? 80s exercise video looking characters who are these genetically superior people is even reminiscent of BattleTech, with them being just as the clans in BattleTech are not exactly down for sexual mores. If you follow me, it's very like free love, which kind of fits what we see here a bit. I would say that this is mostly a character story about Achilles, which is actually handled pretty decently. Because it's basically like it's really just a classic sports story slapped onto giant robot fights. Because it's like, he's the best. There's some skullduggery that makes him lose. He tries to save the audience when a weapon goes off outside of its or a weapon goes off uncontrollably, but the weapon drives him back and he smushes a bunch of people, so he has some PTSD he has to deal with. And meanwhile, they're trying to sort out who they basically. So some of the terminology in this is kind of silly because it's like, oh, quick, deploy the green laser. The green laser was our secret weapon. How did this happen? Why did they have a green laser too?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some espionage subplot in the movie. Yeah.
Yep. Which I think I give this enough of a subtle recommend that I don't feel the need to go into great blow by blow on it.
Yeah.
Aside from to say, it wasn't entirely obvious, but I also wasn't entirely speculating because it's not that kind of movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if you're watching a Hercule Poirot movie, you're thinking more about what the mystery could be than if you're watching Robot Jox.
Right. Yeah. I also thought it was rather interesting that the derogatory name for the genetically engineered people were tubies.
Considering where we were watching it, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
There was a crazy scene with all the tubies where I joked at the time when we were watching it. I sent him a text going, so how did you? Wow, this looked really dangerous. Where you're climbing up this enormous 40-foot tall jungle gym. How did you guarantee the safety of the actors? They had good senses of balance.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was the 80s.
Yep. I mean, it wasn't too much further before this movie was made that you could dynamite a horse legally.
That's true. Well, you could thank John Landis for a lot of that stuff,
Right.
All the safety measures and everything.
Yep. He destroyed United Artists, but less animal cruelty. So.
Well, that was Michael Cimino was the guy that did those Heaven's Gate. I was talking about John Landis with the Twilight Zone movie.
Oh, okay, yeah. You're talking human safety. I'm talking about animal.
Oh, you're talking about animal safety. Oh, yeah. Well, they're both important.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But let's see. The other thing is like, okay, so how is the actual mech combat? It's a little different than I was expecting because I had gone in kind of assuming it was going to be 100% like stop motion animation, and there was some of that. But there was also like a lot of suit combat, which is where the Ultraman comparison came from before.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah. And obviously they were limited by the technology of the time. I mean, it wasn't.
And the budget.
Yeah, and the budget. Yeah. So it wasn't, it wasn't Pacific Rim, and that kind of.
No.
Yeah.
Not quite that level of quality, but if you can stand to watch an episode of Power Rangers, it's better in some ways, worse in others.
Yeah.
I will say that they did some cool stuff with people outside the cockpits while the robots are moving around. And you mentioned that the idea for the people behind this had the original idea for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
That the whole perspective thing kind of strikes me as them playing around with a similar concept.
Oh yeah.
Like it scenes where Achilles was stuck out of his mech, forced perspective where he was at the feet of the mech, just things like that.
Yeah. I mean, they did a good job with what they had. I will say that. Yeah.
The sad thing is I've seen much worse on this channel, and this isn't even objectively all that good, but it is compelling, and
yeah,
it's very cheesy. It's like 100% American cheese by volume.
Oh yeah.
But I would say I like this flavor of cheese a bit better than Death Sport or Bloodsport. Bloodsport.
Oh yeah, Bloodsport. Oh. Yeah,
it's a bit more interesting. There's more twists and turns that actually twist the plot,
Yeah.
That was actually like a line in an old review I was watching where someone said, okay, so here's how you know if it's a good plot twist. Does anything in the plot actually change if the information is presented to the characters earlier?
Yeah.
If it isn't, then it's just a happenstance, not a plot twist.
Mm. Well, that's a good lesson to remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah, by that definition, this does actually have a plot twist.
Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, yeah, there is. Yeah, and although I kind of saw that one, if it's the one you're referring to, I think I kind of saw it coming.
See, I didn't, but that's like where I gave myself the out earlier, where it's like, this isn't the sort of movie where I'm trying to unravel the mystery. I just assume the mystery
Right.
will be presented to me and
Yeah.
just enjoy the giant robot fights
Right. Yeah.
and looking for BattleTech similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say like, if you've ever played BattleTech or MechWarrior and wished for a movie of it, this is the closest we are likely to get. Because like if
Yeah.
Amazon can't get a Warhammer 40K universe off the ground,
Yeah.
or
With,
cinematic or excuse me, streaming universe off the ground yet,
yeah. With Henry Cavill running it. Yeah.
considering that Warhammer is a much bigger franchise than BattleTech, sorry,
Yeah.
like nobody's going to want to invest in that.
Yeah.
Maybe in a universe where Halo, the TV show, had actually been good.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh, don't get me started on that show. Oh.
Yeah, no. This is currently available to stream for free on Tubi. Yeah, I give it like I give it a you have to be in the mood for science fiction cheese recommend.
Mhm.
Um, Daniel, do you have any additional thoughts? As
Uh,
somebody who doesn't have the same, I get that BattleTech similarity as I do. Like, does
yeah.
it stand up just as a independent thing?
No, it does. Yeah, yeah. No, I enjoyed it for the most part. You know, it was surprising. You know, kind of the the level of narrative. You know, I mean, they didn't go too heavy into the lore with a lot of stuff, but I mean, I thought it was yeah, I thought it was entertaining watch and you know, and of course, I was mainly just like watching it from the perspective of like I said before, like I'm familiar with Stuart Gordon's work, I'm familiar with Charlie Band's stuff, and yeah, so you know, kind of watching it. And by the way, this is not really in their wheelhouse. I mean, in terms of like sci-fi is, but not to this level. So it was an interesting watch to see them delve into this area of the genre.
Yeah, you mentioned the world building. Like, I think this was actually just like this had just enough world building that you could understand what was going on. While like if this had been a big hit and they made a bunch of, or there would have been a lot of room for a sequel.
Oh
Kind
yeah.
of kind of like a Star Wars 1 level of world building now that I think about it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Like you could have expanded it, but this didn't quite set the cinematic world on fire, so this is
Yeah.
what we got. And what we
Yep.
got is actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of cheating and skullduggery going on in this movie.
Yes.
It was full of dirty, rotten scoundrels.
Yes. Yeah. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Yes, the classic Steve Martin, Michael Caine con artist comedy. Um in this movie, I hadn't watched this movie in a long time, and there was a lot I'd forgotten about it. Um
Yeah, I at very least I knew the ending of the movie. I don't know how much of the lead up I had seen.
yeah.
That is of course the thing about in the era of terrestrial and cable TV, you're always catching random parts of movies if you were just channel surfing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this movie popped up a lot on like TBS and Comedy Central and those, you know,
Yep,
great
that makes sense.
cable stations. Um, but yeah, the premise of the movie is you got Michael Caine's character, Lawrence Jameson, who is a gentleman con artist. He he lives in what was the name of the town in France?
Something on the Mediterranean coast.
Yeah, it was in the French Riviera. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, so he's in this Mediterranean, this beautiful French town where he's running this he runs this con where he gets like basically old lady, or not old, but like older women who are like very morally what's that?
He like goes after people with like more money than sense.
Right. Yeah. And of course the women that he targets are kind of like they're very morally corruptible, or just not. They're not very like they're not good people, or they're not very bright. Yeah,
Right.
like
They're
as you
just very
said.
naive.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he runs this con where he pretends to be this prince from this, exiled prince from this, war torn country, and he just needs needs this money to help fund the resistance and all this other and of course he's got the chief of police in this town is working with him on this, um and he's of course he's got his own butler who's played by oh god, I can't remember his name, but Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars.
That was him. Oh,
That was
that's
him.
hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, that was him. Yeah. And so he's running this con, and of course he's got this beautiful chateau out there right there on the water, and he goes to Switzerland to deposit his cash, and as he's on the train going back, he encounters Steve Martin's character, Freddie Benson, and he's just a very
if Michael Caine is a scalpel, he's just a shiv.
Yeah, yes, yeah. He's subtlety is not his is not in his repertoire. Yeah,
actually, shiv is wrong. If Michael Caine is a scalpel, he's just a sledgehammer in terms of his approach.
Yeah, because he gets on the train and he sits across from this woman, and he tells this sob story about his grandmother, and
it's always his grandmother.
Yeah, it's always his grandmother, and she's really sick, and I can't pay the hospital bill, and I don't have any money. And so the woman calls the waiter and says, "Oh, have him, just order whatever you want." And he orders just a whole bunch of food. And Michael Caine's looking at him like, "Oh, come on, man."
Yeah, he's just completely shameless.
Yeah.
Just bringing shame to the fine art of being a gentleman con man.
Yeah. Yes. And so then they share a train car, and then he tells him, "Oh yeah, I'm going to this town, and because I hear it's there's a lot of really great pickings there." And they like, "Oh no," and Michael goes, "No, you don't want to go there. It's just a bunch of old people. They're no, like, oh, you want to go to Italy." Like, "Oh, okay."
But of course, he knows when someone's trying to get him off the scent of a good scam.
Right. Yeah. And so basically, like the first part of the movie is Michael Caine is just trying to get rid of Steve Martin because he's on his turf. He's like, "Hey, this is my territory. Get out of here." But then he eventually takes him on to be like his partner, basically.
Yep. Yeah, like in the movie, it has a very long first act because you have to have that setup.
Yeah.
Like that was my only real complaint about the thing is that, like, on the one hand, you kind of need the long first act to set things up. On the other hand, it's like the movie is more fun once it gets to the meat of the matter.
Yeah. Yeah, because they well, what's funny is he's basically training him to act like a gentleman. Coleman, slicking his hair back and wearing nice clothes, and teaching him how to put the posture and the walk and everything. And then they start running this con, and he's He's
The Rupert the Monkey Boy, is that what that is?
Yeah, you got me playing Rupert the Monkey Boy, who's this. He's his brother, who is developmentally challenged.
To put it mildly.
To put it mildly, yeah.
I mentioned this when we were watching it, that the one thing that would completely destroy this whole scam is, what if they run into a nice woman who doesn't mind helping out somebody who's disabled?
Right. Yeah. Well, then they'd have to come up with a way to get rid of her, I guess. It's just like they'd have to do something and be like, okay, yeah. He's like, oh, okay, never mind, I'm out of here.
Right. The Rupert the Monkey Boy scenes are probably like the strictly funniest part of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it is a Steve Martin. Steve Martin is very good at acting pathetic, is I guess the way I'll put it.
Yeah. May I use the bathroom? Yes, you may.
He just makes a face.
Yeah, he just has that blank stare. Like, thank you.
Mommy?
Mommy, yeah.
No, Rupert.
No, Rupert. Yeah, but yeah, so once they get through all that, and then they run this scam, but then Steve Martin doesn't get his take of the earnings. So then Michael Caine tells him,
because basically like, oh, that's your tuition, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He said, you're here to learn. You're not here to make money. And so then they make a gentleman bet that they could con the next woman, whoever the next woman they run into, and the next woman they run into is let's see, her name
specifically Michael Caine is trying to get him out of his town.
Right.
So the challenge is whoever can con the next person,
right,
gets to keep the territory.
Right. Yes. And so then the next Mark is her name is Janet Colgate, played by Glenn Headley, and she the only other movie I recognize her from was Dick Tracy. She played Dick Tracy's girlfriend. But yeah, she's in France because of she supposedly won some contest for, like, I can't remember what it was. It was like a laundry detergent or something, and yeah.
Actually, no, that's a detail I'll mention later.
Oh,
because this movie does have a bit of it has a twist that might seem fairly actually, they do a pretty good job of covering up where they're going with it, I would say.
Right. Yeah, they do. Yeah. And but yeah, so both Caine and Martin run their own little cons. Like Steve Martin's pretending to be a disabled veteran who, he's got really bad PTSD, and he's talking about his wife, and like, I saw my wife, dancing with this guy, and and then
ever since then my legs don't work.
Yeah. And of course Michael Caine tries to do his whole, I'm a prince from another country bit, but then he can't do that. So then he gets in on Martin's con by pretending to be this doctor that Martin's like, oh, I need to see this one doctor from
Dr. Whatever Steiner.
Right, yeah, I need to. And then Michael Caine shows up pretending to be the doctor. But yeah. But yeah, so basically the rest of the movie is basically just them trying to get this money from this woman, and and then
right, they're trying to out-con each other.
Right. Yeah. And of course by the end of the movie it doesn't work out for either of them.
Yeah. So let's do some non-spoiler talk here first, because there is a fairly large spoiler, and we'll get into that in a minute. So they do a good job of just making their two styles contrast quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because Michael Caine is a nice, suave con artist, whereas Martin, he's just kind of pathetic, honestly. It's kind of like the dude has no dignity in this movie. Like whatever he needs to get $20, he will. He is the meme. $20 is $20.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's the guy that you run into outside of a liquor store, and he's like, "Hey man, I lost my job, and I'm I just need
Oh
twenty
yeah, I
bucks
lost
to
my wallet and I have to get my grandmother's dying and she really wants this last drink and
yeah. Like, okay, dude, whatever.
and now that I think about it, it's like a very consistent part of his style. Like he's just acts completely pathetic at all times, whereas Michael Caine is more going for the suave gentleman who is just
Yeah,
like temporarily down on his luck.
right. Yeah. Yeah, Martin cons you. You want to punch him in the face. Michael Caine cons you. Is like, oh wow, yeah,
Well, that was nice of him to pay
well,
attention to me for a bit.
yeah. Well played, sir. Yeah,
The- so of course, like the fun of the movie is watching these two very different actors bounce off each other. It's like that is now something that occurs. This is maybe one of the sillier roles I've seen Steve Martin in.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
The only one I can really think of that competes with this one is the Jerk.
yeah.
Like how
That's the
stupid
only.
he lets himself look.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of another one that were kind of similar, but nothing's coming to my mind right now.
Right. It does kind of stand out. Also, I don't usually associate Michael Caine with anything this comedic, so that makes it interesting in itself.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, this certainly a different yeah, different role for him. Different genre at least. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like non-spoiler thoughts. This is a fun movie. Like I said, the only nitpick I have is the opening act maybe goes on a little longer than it needed to, strictly speaking, but
Yeah.
it's like if your biggest complaint is that you have too much of the setup, then you're not in too bad a shape.
Yeah.
All right. It's currently available on Tubi. Spoiler alert in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I would call this a second viewing because the part of the movie I happened to catch was, of course, the ending.
Yeah.
And I got to say, knowing that the woman that they were going after was a con artist herself the whole time,
Yeah.
it was kind of blatantly obvious once, like, on a rewatch with me knowing what to look for.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt that way, but it's like, or I should say, no, it's kind of the only way the movie could go.
Yeah.
They did a pretty decent job of not telegraphing it too much, but like the detail I'd put a pin in earlier was that like her name was Colgate and she won a competition for something soap related.
Right. Yeah. Well, and when she was talking to Michael Caine in the one scene when she's like, "Oh, talking about her money," and I said, "Well, I really want to do something else with it. I'm not really rich. I just won this money from whatever," and all
Right.
this. Yeah, and then he starts to feel guilty about like, "Oh, I can't take this woman's money."
Yep. Which that is some first class manipulation there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's the other big difference is that Michael Caine's character actually has like a heart and some sort of code of conduct,
yeah,
which just
yeah,
makes
yeah.
for a nice contrast.
Yeah, he only takes from people that are just really awful, and then he'll use the money to like enrich like other people in other places. Like like he goes to the museum and he's showing this all the artwork that he helped restore, and like the done all the landscaping around his mansion and everything.
Yep, like he's like, oh yeah, look at this beautiful art I've retained, or not retained, I've preserved, etc., etc.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course Steve Martin's just like, I don't care about those stupid statues. Come on.
Yeah, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like he's just so gauche.
Oh yeah, yeah. And but yeah, when she finally gets them is just, yeah, the when the realization hits them that they're like, oh, she conned us both.
She got us good.
Yeah. And Steve Martin's really mad about it, but Michael Caine's just like, okay.
Right. Game recognizes game.
Yes. But yeah, no, I thought that they play that off really well. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, like no too serious complaints about this movie. It's one of those movies that is perhaps a little difficult to review just because it is handled so well.
Yes. Yeah. Um, I highly recommend this movie over the remake.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the remake. So
Yeah.
you never actually saw it, right? You just knew of it.
I know, I knew of it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't even remember what it's called. But it's basically Anne Hathaway's playing the Michael Caine character and Rebel Wilson's playing the Steve Martin character. And let's see, it is called The Hustle.
And I gotta say that I don't care. I cannot foresee any circumstance in which Rebel Wilson would be a successful. Is seductress even the right term? Like,
Yeah, yeah, seductress. Yeah,
or like con woman, because it's like,
yeah,
like if there's anything the internet has taught us in the last few years, it's what the path to ripping off men looks like, and it usually looks more like step one, dress in seductive outfit. Step two, imply sleeping will happen. Step
yeah.
three, be conventionally attractive.
Yes. Yeah, and string them along as long as you can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or just make it a mass con and start an OnlyFans. But that's that's the
Yeah. This is. Yeah.
And not to never mind. I know that this is actually besmirching Rebel Wilson a bit. I cannot foresee her successfully targeting some of these people. So
No, I can't either. Um, but no, yeah. If you have not already watched this movie yet, definitely give it a watch.
indeed.
Yeah. But I think we've said all we need to say for tonight.
And perhaps more than we needed to say.
Yes. But thank you for everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always, including you, Arcos, who showed up early. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, or ring the bell, buy some books, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Good night.